Rebecca and Dan, this short video is just for discussion purposes. I didn't create it to be a formal presentation. I just want to go through and talk a little bit about transferring assets from current to non-current categories. And of course, in agriculture, the typical place that occurs is when you're dealing with raised breeding stock. On the expense and income page, I don't have any income and expenses. Keep it all zero just so that we can show exactly what happens when you deal with a raised breeding stock. So let's just suppose for a moment it's a cow-calf operation. And in the spring of 2010, we have a calf crop that is born, and we have a heifer. And that heifer is kept during the spring of 2010, the summer and the fall. And as you come to December 31st of 2010, that animal is a market-ready animal. In other words, it could be sold. And just for illustration purposes, let's suppose that as of December 31st, it's worth $1,200. But we haven't sold it. It's still on the farm, but it is a market animal. It could be sold as a market animal. So right here under closing current inventory, I'm going to put $1,200. Now when I went to hit enter, you notice you'll get $1,200 worth of income. Nothing will take place in this non-current category, and you'll have annual income of $1,200. Now we go to 2011, and the farm decides to keep that heifer for in the breeding herd. In other words, not sell it as market livestock. So what happens in 2011, that animal will simply leave the current inventory. So there'll be a zero right there in 2011 because that animal's no longer in current inventory. So you see you got a $1,200 loss in change in current inventory. However, we will enter that $1,200. We're transferring that female heifer over to the non-current inventory for non-depreciable livestock. Okay, so you see that $1,200 increase here will simply offset that $1,200 up in current inventory. So you get an offset, and there's no income reported. Now, if you read the different literature, some will say you should transfer that animal at the same value into non-current as you left the current inventory. But a lot of sources will say that you can add a maintenance cost to that, not market value, but a maintenance cost. So, for example, what if you put that number in as say $1,350, assuming a $150 increase in maintenance cost? Now you've got $150 worth of income from that transfer. And that's perfectly valid as long as that's not a market value adjustment. In the second year that that animal's in non-current, you know how that transfers down to the beginning inventory the next year. Then that next year, it's still valid to increase that maintenance cost until an animal is of mature breeding age. So for cattle, that's usually 2 years. So maybe that animal's worth $1,500. Because you've added another $150 worth of cost to that animal. In other words, that's what you've paid to maintain it. So we generate $150. Now, if that animal's reached mature breeding, that $1,500 should stay $1,500 forever. And on your ending inventory, when you go up here to your ending inventory, you would enter that animal as $1,500 so that it'll pop here as $1,500 and you get no other income. If that animal had entered the herd back here before 2010, then these numbers here should be staying constant at that original $1,200, which means you would be showing no income from that animal because you don't want to show income from non-current assets because of any kind of increase in market value, because that's really just hypothetical.